Alright everyone, got something pretty cool this week, and it's all thanks to my friend Allison here in the office. She brought me this idea, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. So I started playing around with it and came out with something pretty neat here, and it's based on a graphic for Dancing with the Stars, where it had an image of a dancer, and there's all these highlights and really cool sparkly things going on. I thought that was really cool. So that's what we're going to create with this image here, and of course it has to start with a photograph. And here we've got a pretty good photograph of a dancer, and her hair is all waving around and everything is looking good. So let's dress this up and make it look even cooler. So the first thing I want to do is isolate the highlights of this to enhance the light that's kind of shining on her body here. So I'm going to go into the channels palette, and we're going to toggle through each of the channels and look for which one has the most highlights going on, and it certainly looks like it is the red channel. So let's go ahead and drag a duplicate of that. And you can see we got that duplicate there. I'm going to go over here into the toolbar and grab my brush tool, and let's bring black to the foreground here, and I'm going to make my brush, let's actually go and load, or actually let's get a soft edge brush, really big one, about 100. And we're going to change the blend mode to overlay for this brush. So that way when I click and paint, it'll only paint in the sampled area. If I click in a dark area, it'll only affect the colors in that area. So let's paint around here. And I'm not being overly precise. I'm not necessarily going to mask her out. I just need to get rid of some of these dark area, or these light areas around the edge here. So let's just kind of darken that up because we want to get closer into the highlighted areas on her body. Alright, about like that. So we're just going to kind of finish that off by using our levels. I'm going to press Command and Control L, and we'll bring up our levels and just take that dark slider and push it in a little bit. Right about like that. I think that looks good. We'll click OK. I want to get a little bit area in the hair here, so I'm just going to click in the dark area and just take one stroke across. And it kind of gets some of that detail in the hair there, just so it's not so bright. So we got a pretty good area there. I'm going to go ahead and load this channel as a selection. I'm going to hold down the Command or Control key, click right on that channel. Let's go back into that composite channel, back into the layers, and we're going to highlight the actual background layer itself. And I'm going to press Command or Control J, and it will copy that selected area to its own layer, as you can see right there. So let's change that blend mode of this layer to screen. You notice those areas got a little bit brighter. Well, I'm going to press Command J a few times, and it's going to get even brighter on there. So I may have a lot of instances of this here. Let's go ahead and hold down the Shift key and select all those. Press Command and Control E to bring them down. So now that area is brighter and a little bit more dense. If we wanted to make it even brighter, we could use our levels and just pump that up a little bit, and it gets that overly dramatic bright light effect there. So, moving on, let's apply a couple of lighting effects to the actual background image. I'm going to do that through adjustment layers. Let's go ahead and first apply a hue saturation, and we're just going to remove all the color. Take all that saturation down, and we're seeing the color that's on that layer that we just created a moment ago. It's going to make an interesting effect in just a moment. And again, we're going to create a adjustment layer. This time it's going to be a gradient, and we're going to use this one right here. As you can see, it gives me a really wild and crazy effect there, but that's okay because we're going to change it. I'm going to tilt it just a little bit. We'll click OK. You can see the adjustment layers there, and let's change this to color. You'll notice how cool of an effect we're getting there. So we're on our way. Let's do a few more things here. Well, we need to create the spotlights, or the flashes of light that are around this image. And we're going to do that using a lens flare, but we're going to be doing it in a little bit different way than you may have used it before. I'm going to create a new blank layer. And I'm going to press Option Delete, and it's going to fill that foreground color black with, or on that layer rather. Then we're going to go inside the filter menu, go down here to Render, Lens Flare, and here we have our lens flare here. I'm going to put it right in the middle because I want these rings. If you know you reposition the lens flare, the flare rings are, they kind of go offset here in the opposite direction. I want to stack them right on top of each other just so the circles are all in one little kind of surrounding each other there. And I'm going to set the brightness at about 110%, and we'll click OK. So we get it pretty big there. I'm going to actually remove the saturation. Let's go ahead and press Shift Command U, and that will remove all the color. And then I'm going to press Command or Control I to invert the values. Now we're getting somewhere. I'm going to open up my levels. Let's go under Image Mode, or Image Adjustments, Levels, and let's darken that up a little bit. And we'll push that gray in there a little bit there, and I think that will look good. Now all I need to do is define this as a brush. That's what we're doing differently. We're not just applying a lens flare, we're turning a lens flare into a brush. So let's go into the Edit menu, And the reason is we have to have it inverted is it looks at the dark values and makes that part of your brush completely opaque. All these other areas will be a little bit transparent. So on that layer, let's go into the edit menu, define brush preset. There, very good. Notice it now has taken on that shape. So let's go and create. I'm going to go ahead and turn this layer off for now. Technically, I'm done with it, but I don't want to necessarily throw it away just in case I need to come back to it. So let's go ahead and create a new blank layer. I'm going to make that brush a little bit smaller. I'm just going to click once, and you'll see that we get a cool little flare there, like a flash. Well, let's dress that up a little bit. I'm going to go into that layer, and let's go into the layer styles and choose outer glow. And we are going to use a yellow glow, but not that default yellow. Let's get something a little bit more brighter. I think that will work there. And we'll increase the opacity a little bit, and I think that looks good. So the layer style set. Let's go ahead and press Command or Control A and hit delete. Because I didn't really need that flare there. I just needed it there to see what the layer style was going to look like. Because you can see on the layer, that layer style is still active. Now we're going to change the properties of the brush a little bit. So open up the brush options, and you'll notice there's our brush shape. I'm going to go into the shape dynamics, and I'm going to leave the pen pressure off for the control setting, but I am going to take the size jitter all the way up to 100. Actually, not quite 100. Let's do about 75. And let's keep the angle jitter, all these other settings to 0, and turn all these other ones off. Now, so when we paint, it will give me random sizes each time. And let's do a tiny one right back there. Then, so we've got those yellow ones. Let's create a new blank layer right above that one, and I'm going to hold down the Option or Alt key, and we're going to drag this layer style to this new layer. It's simply a quick and easy way of copy and pasting a layer style to another layer. So Option key, click right on that effects icon and drag it to the target layer, and now that layer style is on there. But we're going to change it. I'm going to double click that effects icon, go into that outer glow, and let's change this to a blue, kind of a bright blue color. Click OK, everything looks good. Now when we go in here, we get really cool blue flares. We'll go off to the side here. Let's go off the corner. Don't want to go too crazy with a whole bunch of flares, but I think you get the idea. We'll do one big one up here. I think that looks good. Probably getting too many, but that's okay. I think you get the idea. Now, we're almost there. I'm going to do one more thing here. I'm going to go and create a new blank layer. And again, we're going to go into that brushes panel. And here's where saving that one layer with the lens flare on it comes in handy. I'm going to reactivate that layer. And this is really cool. I'm going to take my lasso tool, and I'm just going to come up here and just draw a very abstract, very tiny shape, as you can see right there. All I do is just kind of squiggly around and just draw a very random kind of abstract shape there. Probably could make it a little bit bigger. Just like that. Fill it with black, press Command Delete, and there we've got just a really weird shape there. Let's draw a selection around that and define this as a brush. So it gives me that. Let's turn off that layer. Go back to that new blank layer, and we're going to select that brush. Should be the last brush in there. There it is right there. So you can see the shapes that it's given me. Well, let's go in here and modify it a little bit. I'm certainly going to make it a little bit smaller. So let's take that diameter down. Activate Shape Dynamics. We're going to take the size jitter all the way up to 100. I'm going to actually activate pen pressure this time. Angle jitter all the way to 100. Roundness jitter all the way to 100. Turn on the scattering. Scattering all the way up there, both axes. Keep the count down to 1. Let's actually take the spacing and space this out just a little bit and see what we're getting here. So that looks, yeah, that looks like it might be pretty good. So now all we're going to do, in fact, I'm going to take that scattering down just a bit, right about there. So now it's going to take a stroke and just kind of brush like a sparkle effect right around the document here. Just coming right around, just give it a little bit of sparklies here and there. Let's go ahead and add a layer style to it to give it a little bit of more flavor. Double click on that layer. I'm going to do an outer glow. And we'll increase that size a little bit. It's giving me kind of a cool effect. Let's kind of paint some area over here. That looks pretty good. But you can see I could go all day. This is just too much fun. But that pretty much does it. All we really need to do at this point is add some text, and I've already got some set here. Boom. Here we go. Dancing with the Stars. And let's go ahead and add another blue flare back there. So let's go ahead and grab that flare brush and let's put one big one right behind there. Not quite that big. Right about there. A little bit smaller. Right about there. If I can get the placement right. Now we'll do that. But I want to do one last thing. One real quick thing. Let's create a new blank layer right up here. This time I'm going to press Shift Delete and fill it with gray. And we're going to do a lens flare again. Let's do render lens flare. And let's actually position it off like that so that flare kind of goes out here. And let's make it about 120. Click OK. Now it's on that gray layer, so we're just going to blend it in by changing the blend mode from normal to hard light. And there we get a flare up by her face there. Just kind of a cool spotlight effect. And you can reposition it. That's the beauty of it being on its own layer. We can just position that right about there. And there we have it. Very cool Dancing with the Stars image. And notice we started, when I hold down my Option key and click on that first layer, we went from that to that. Pretty cool stuff.